Hello everyone, and welcome back to Venue Diagram. It is time for yet another Bob Dylan tier list. This time we've moved into the Bob Dylan albums of the 2000s, which is that first decade of this century, from 2000 to 2009. As we've discussed previously, this tier ranking is simply my opinion on these albums. Not a whole lot of musical knowledge. In fact, very, very, very little musical knowledge is thrown into this. It's basically just my opinions of these albums as they came out and how I, as a very large Bob Dylan fan, reacted to the album in the moment and how I still feel about it now. The categories, as you can see here on the tier list, we have Blind Willie McTell for the S tier. And just to quickly go through those albums that are on it, in case you don't want to go back and watch those other videos, which you can by clicking in the description below or checking out the other videos as they are shared around us. And if you do go down there, please like, subscribe, comment, talk about how much you like or dislike my ranking of the albums or where you would put them. The number one album, which these are in chronological order, but it is my favorite Dylan album of the 1960s, bringing it all back home in the S tier, followed really closely by Highway 61 Revisited and Blonde on Blonde. That's the trifecta of amazing 1960s albums. It would be hard-pressed to not put those in the S tier for any Dylan fan, or really any music fan, or even someone who's kind of a general public person, really, for those three albums for Dylan. Then Blood on the Tracks, which is my favorite album of all time, full stop. Desire, which is very, very close for me. And then the Bootleg series and Live 1966, the Royal Albert Hall, not Royal Albert Hall Bootleg series. So that can kind of give you the taste of where I put my S tier, which is very S tier-y, except I don't think a lot of other people put Desire there, but Desire is there for me. Then in the A tier, Leopard Skin Pillbox Hat, which has the other albums that I really love that are not necessarily all the way up there, and a few of them I don't think a lot of other people would put all the way at the top of the list. Freewheelin', which is the first one there, I think some other people would probably put at the top of the list. Another Side is one of my all-time favorites. John Wesley Harding, I love the vibe. On and on and on and on. Hard Rain, I know, has its detractors as a live album. It is amazing to me. I almost put it in the S tier with the other two as a second trifecta, but I moved it down here. As you can see, both Slow Train Coming and Shot of Love here in the A tier. I'm not even sure myself if I feel that way, but that's where I put them, and that's where they're staying. And then, of course, Infidels, World Gone Wrong, Time Out of Mind. Time Out of Mind was real close to the S tier too. I'm not going to go all the way through all the rest of them. You can check out the other videos for that, but that kind of gives you the sense of where my mind was working as we go through these things now as we're headed into the 2000s. The other tiers, Mozambique for B, It Ain't Me Babe for C, Desolation Row for D, and Positively 4th Street for F. We hit the 2000s really rolling because the first album to come out in the 2000s came out on September 11th, 2001, and after other things happened that morning, I went to the record store and bought this album and brought it back and listened to it as the world fell apart. However, the album itself is fantastic. This album is easily an S tier album for me. The tracks on it, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, Mississippi, Summer Days, By and By, Lonesome Day Blues, High Water, which is just one of my all-time favorite Dylan tracks. The second half is a little bit lesser for me, but that first half, those first few songs, is just S tier stuff all the way through High Water. On the second half, Moonlight, Honest With Me, Po' Boy, Cry a While, Sugar Baby, all really good. This album, I listened to it just constantly throughout the early part of the 2000s, and like I alluded to when I did my 90s video, it really solidified this era which is going to have this kind of trifecta of really great Dylan albums in it once again. um, as just a fantastic Dylan era. And also, there's just something about the sound of this one and the way that this one interacted with what was going on in the world at the time and all of that stuff that made it super duper essential. So, anyway, Love and Theft, S tier. Next, we have the Bootleg Series Volume 5, the Rolling Thunder Review, which is going to hit S tier once again for me. As I said with 1966, the material itself just has to bump it up there. This Rolling Thunder Review era is probably my favorite Dylan era. I connect to it more so than the 60s era. There's something about that vibe that is more what I feel when I listen to this music and what I want out of music in general. And this album, these tracks, this collection of tour dates and all of the stuff that is happening here just really, really emphasizes that and really pushes it over the top. This released in 2002. Again, it's just it's along that string of just really essential, really relevant, really Dylan as a part of the culture series of releases. And of course, having this as the bootleg series that came out at that time, which is kind of the next one in that string of the bootleg series that those of us who don't have a whole lot of bootlegs really would want, was just the thing to have. So the next one is yet another bootleg series release. This one, Bootleg Series Volume 6, the Dylan Concert at Philharmonic Hall, 1964. This is 2004 release, and kind of everything that I said about all these albums recently is why I'm going to move this a little bit further down the list. So this one is a recording of the Philharmonic concert from 1964, and it's great. The songs are great, the performances are great, everything about it is essential, but it's not like the other ones in the sense of this is something that I feel like everyone needs as a part of the collection. Everyone needs to have this, and it didn't feel in the moment like it needed to be that either. And so I'm tempted to put it into either the A tier, which is where I think the material would put it, but I'm actually going to put it down here in the B tier because it is most similar to me in that scale to Dylan Unplugged, MTV Unplugged, which is what's the other one right beside it here. And so I feel pretty good about putting it there because it doesn't mean that it's bad in any sense. It just doesn't hit the heights to me, being about this era, which I don't think needs all of the releases that are coming, that it's going to have for every one of these concerts to really come out like this. It's nice to have a bootleg series that is a single concert with these particular moments in time captured, but I don't need it and didn't need that moment. Now, the next release is yet another bootleg series. It is in 2005 and is Volume 7, the soundtrack to No Direction Home, the Martin Scorsese, Bob Dylan documentary. And I'm also going to put that in the B tier, even though because it's Scorsese and because the movie was relatively influential in kind of the movie-going spheres, it kind of had more buzz to it. I'm just going to say I still prefer Don't Look Back in both film and soundtrack areas. So there's a lot of great stuff on there. I'm not saying anything bad about the songs, clearly, and nothing bad about the movie itself. The movie is also really good. But for me, it's also just not at the A or S tier levels because it doesn't have that draw that new material would have, or just an absolute classic release of material would have. Clearly, there is absolutely classic material on this soundtrack. It has stuff from throughout the early period of Dylan's life that is absolutely essential, but I don't think that it is singularly essential in comparison to everything else. So they're not on this tier list, but I do want to throw up Live at the Gaslight and Live at Carnegie Hall, and note that they did come out at the same time as the soundtrack to No Direction Home, kind of as companion pieces, but were, at least one of them was available at Starbucks, which also made it more of this entire Dylan being part of everything around as you were out and about in the culture type of thing that I've talked about several times over the course of these videos, which I think is very important to the ethos of what we're doing here. Both albums, however, if I were putting them on the tier list, and they're not here so I can't, but if I were, I'm putting them both in C tier. Then we reach, however, 2006 and Modern Times. And Modern Times is yet another stone cold classic to me. It's either here in the A tier with Time Out of Mind, or up here in the S tier with Blind Willie McTell. The tracks on it, Thunder on a Mountain, Spirit on the Water, Rollin' and Tumblin', When the Deal Goes Down, The Levee's Gonna Break, all the songs on it have this classic feel to it, and it just is the third album in this string of 3 fantastic albums in a row. Now, this one did have a controversy about potential uncredited use of song elements related to it that I remember was a pretty big deal around the time of its release. I'm not in the know enough to know about how that's done now, although, of course, Dylan's entire ethos in the past 20 years has been about Americana and the use of folk music and how that stuff is interconnected, and Dylan did an entire podcast about that. Chronicles is halfway about that. So I feel as though that's more a part of what people have come to understand that the actual project is about at this point. In any case, I love this album. I am also putting Modern Times in S tier. The Bootleg Series, Volume 8, Telltale Songs, Rare and Unreleased, 1989 to 2006. Came out in 2008 and is next. This album is interesting because this one is starting to feel as though the Bootleg Series is entering into that era where it's hitting different parts of the Dylan catalog of recorded music and things that are actually lesser known by the vast majority of people. And there are real gems here. There are real things to discover. Some songs that would be interesting. There are alternate versions of songs like Mississippi on here that are really good and really interesting. Overall, as a part of the overall project, I feel like this one is further down the list. I like Bootleg Series releases like this one more than some of the other ones that are out there, though. I like that it's taking a wider swath of time and giving you more interesting releases from it, rather than basically just saying, here's everything from these sessions that could possibly be from these sessions at all, and just deal with it. So for Telltale Signs, I am putting it in the C tier, but it's good. Actually, you know what? I'm actually thinking, as I look through the songs that are here, there's a lot of songs here that I really like, and I really like these versions of them. They're alternate versions of songs like Ring Them Bells, alternate versions of Most of the Time, Cold Iron's Bound, Lovesick. A lot of just really good, really great songs with alternate versions that in many cases are as good or better than the ones that we got in the release. That bumps it to B. Then we hit 2009. And 2009 is interesting because in April of 2009, there was a Dylan release, Together Through Life, of all new material nobody was expecting. It wasn't on Dylan's website beforehand. It wasn't like, oh, look, we're going to have a new album coming out. It just basically dropped and was like, what? Nobody knew this was happening. Nobody knew this was coming. Unfortunately, and I know a lot of people really like this album, I've tried to listen to it a bunch of times, and I tried to listen to it for this video. I don't like it. Like some of the Dylan albums that have way worse reputations, there's things within the production quality and the sound behind the songs that just give it a quality that I don't enjoy listening to. And this one doesn't have kind of the lyrical exceptionism that some of the earlier Dylan albums have that can really overcome that. And then also, this album is on the tail end of this period of just fantastic Dylan albums. I know a lot of people really love this one. I don't like it. Like, honestly, I'm sort of tempted from my own personal feelings on it to put it in F tier. I feel like that's too much. I am putting it in D tier, though. I feel like that's a controversial opinion, but that's where it's going. It's going in D. So, yell at me if you like, but that's where it's going. The songs on it, yeah, I don't even know. It's just not my favorite. Then we close out the decade with one of the most unexpected moves of all, and we're here in the Christmas season, and this is the Dylan Christmas album, Christmas in the Heart, released in October of 2009. So two new Studio Dylan albums within that same year. One of which, of course, is this Christmas album, Christmas in the Heart. I like the song choices a lot, and I like the Dylan band take on these Christmas songs. I don't like Christmas music, so it's very difficult to place it. And with a lot of the things that are coming up in the next decade, it's hard to figure out exactly where I'm going to come down on some of the things, because I like a lot of the styles of the music, but some elements don't all come together for me. In any case, I think this is definitely better than Together Through Life for me. Again, I feel like that might be controversial, but that's how I feel. I'm putting it in C. I feel like that's probably as high as it can get. And I feel like that's a pretty good place for it. And I feel like it's a pretty good place to end the Dylan tier ranking of the albums of the 2000s. Thank you for watching. Please comment below how you feel about where I put these. Please follow all of the other videos and see the other rankings and why I put things where I put them. Follow the other videos on the channel. We do different types of stuff here on Venue Diagrams, basically different things that I like and how they interconnect with each other. Is kind of the concept behind what's happening here. And so, until next time, we'll see you in the next life.